I'm Jahawi Batoli, eco-filmmaker and wildlife specialist.
And I'm Ella Meek, environmental campaigner and all-round animal lover.
Welcome to our weekly update on the health of our planet and its animals.
This is The Pulse. Coming up on today's programme.
China's Winter Olympics has started. Is it as green and clean as it claims to be?
One family demonstrate how land can be returned to nature on an epic scale.
Is dumping crop waste at sea an efficient way to capture carbon?
And we'll be bringing you some of this week's more bizarre news from the natural world. Hi Jahawi.
Hey Ella, how are you doing and what have you been up to?
I'm good, thank you. I've actually been pretty busy with my sister for our work for our charity Kids Against Plastic. We were actually in London for a few days recently and had a meeting with the Minister for School Standards, Robin Walker.
Oh, how did that go?
Well, after quite a bit of persuasion, he did agree to re-announce a government target that was set in 2018 to encourage schools to use less plastic by the end of 2022. So that's really exciting news.
Wow, well done. You're always up to some pretty amazing things.
Thank you, so are you. I want to hear what you've been up to this week.
Well, you know how I told you about the dive lab we were running a few weeks ago? Well, now I have the fun job of editing that all together to create a film out of it.
Might be a long job, but I'm sure it'll be worth it. It sounds very cool.
Lots of pretty underwater pictures, so that makes me happy.
So Jahawi, did you see that the Winter Games have started in Beijing in China?
I did, but I'm particularly curious about how sustainable these games will be.
Yeah, I've been wondering that too.
China stated that these games will be the first carbon-neutral games. But I'm curious as to how they'll achieve that, considering that to build the alpine ski resort, they had to cut down 20,000 trees in the Songshan Nature Reserve. And of course, we know China gets half of its power from coal.
Yeah, there are definitely some question marks about how sustainable the Winter Games are.
To get more insight, I spoke to The Guardian's China Affairs editor, Vincent Nye. Hi, Vincent. Thanks for joining me today. There has been some criticism over how sustainable some of the developments of the Olympic sites have been. What has been the organizers' response?
For China this week, putting on a good show seems to be more important than anything else. Conservationists, however, fear it could further damage the local ecology. Songshan National Nature Reserve, you just mentioned, has for many years been a sanctuary to some of the most protected animal and plant species. For example, the golden eagle and the rare orchids. So when news came that this area was going to be affected because of the Winter Olympics, many took to the internet to protest it. So much so, a senior official from the Yanqing County came out to say that the boundaries of the Songshan National Nature Reserve had been redrawn, and the Winter Olympic venue did not fall inside the reserve. But this was not satisfactory to experts. They say that the remapping of the area does not compensate for the loss of the original core area. It will still cause loss of biodiversity. They also criticized the organizers for being opaque in their assessment.
Almost 100% of the alpine ski resort's snow will be made from snow machines. What environmental impacts could this have?
Well, one of the direct challenges of producing artificial snow is that it consumes a huge amount of water. Some estimated they could need some 49 million gallons of water to cover the entire slope in snow. This has drawn quite a lot of criticism because obviously artificial snow was water and energy intensive. It damaged soil health and caused erosion. It would also put a further strain on one of the most water stressed regions in the country. But this is not a challenge unique to China. Artificial snow has also been used in other Winter Olympics, for example, in 1980, 2010 in Vancouver, Canada, and 2014 in Sochi in Russia.
China has announced that this Winter Games will be the first carbon-neutral games. What is the likelihood that that will really be the case?
Well, indeed, officials will point to all environmentally friendly materials they have used for building these venues. President Xi Jinping himself has also said that this year's Winter Games will be what he said, inclusive, open, and clean. But campaigners look at the past examples and they're always skeptical about such a claim.
A report by independent researchers at the Rhodium Group stated that China's annual greenhouse gas emissions exceeded all of developing nations combined. How is China progressing on the issues of renewable energy?
Well, until recently, China has made a huge progress in cutting down pollution and transitioning to using renewable energies. But there are two major problems here, I think. One is that the transition from coal to green energy is still tough, especially at a time of economic slowdown, which China is experiencing at the moment. Secondly, when it comes to renewable energies, technological innovation is always at the heart of this transition. But in the last few years, we have entered an era of great power competition between China and the Western world. And technology decoupling seems to be just happening, and that will have a huge impact on China's green transition.
Thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you for having me.
Jiahui, check out this video from Dongting in southern China.
Oh wow, that's a lot of fish. I'm guessing they were spooked in some way.
Yeah, my understanding of it is that they were spooked by the boat's engine. Ironically, the boat was actually full of volunteers from a local ecological protection association. They're monitoring how the fishing ban on Dongting Lake is going, as it's the second largest freshwater lake in China.
Well, that's a very interesting way to monitor the fish.
Yeah, it is, but it seems that they did get a good idea of how the fishing ban is going, as one of the volunteers said he's never seen so many fish there before. So Jiahui, as you know, animals and plants all across the world are becoming extinct at an accelerated rate.
That's right. And as we saw in our last episode, the loss in wildlife is further reducing the ability for plants to disperse their seeds.
Well, one company in Australia called Airseed have come up with a method to help restore forestation and increase biodiversity. And hopefully this will help to mitigate some of these issues.
I'm really interested to see what they've come up with.
Here's a short clip showing how it works.
Since the last 30 years, the world's lost over 300 million acres of trees. My name's Andrew Walker. I'm a mechanical engineer and the co-founder of Airseed Technologies. What we need to do is, as humanity, as a globe, stop cutting away the Earth's lungs and start mitigating global warming by reforesting. And that's what Airseed Technologies is about, is bringing a solution that we can do this reforestation on a global, scalable way.
Airseed Technologies have developed technology that can plant trees with drought.
We have developed a payload system, which is a delivery system for taking these pods and putting them into the ground.
By making use of a pneumatic firing system, we can plant 2 tree seeds per second and approximately 40,000 trees a day with a team of 2 people. A normal tree planter can do 800 trees per day. We can do 40,000 seeds per day.
Wow, 2 people planting 40,000 trees in a day is incredible.
It really is. The company have also come up with a special seed pod to protect the seed from any insects and animals. And it also provides the seed with the carbon that it needs to grow into a plant, which results in an 80% germination rate.
Amazing. So Ella, for the last 25 years, a family in South Africa's Eastern Cape have created a reserve called Samara that is now thriving and is home to cheetahs, lions, elephant, and they've even had sightings of leopard on the reserve.
How did the family manage that?
Back in the mid-90s, Mark and Sarah Tompkins started buying up farmland and restoring land to nature. By 2003, they had bought 11 farms with an area totaling 27,000 hectares.
Oh, that's fantastic news.
It sure is. Currently, the Samara Game Reserve borders the Karoo's Kamdaboo National Park to the west. The Tompkins plan is to expand the reserve to join with the Mountain Zebra National Park to the east, thus creating, in their own words, South Africa's largest mega reserve, totaling 526,000 hectares.
Well, I really hope that they can achieve that. So Jiahui, next week X Prize and Elon Musk's carbon removal competition will reopen. The competition is open to anyone who can create and demonstrate an effective way of removing carbon directly from the atmosphere or from the ocean, and sequester it durably and sustainably. The winner will receive 50 million US dollars, and the runners-up will also share $50 million.
Wow, that is a lot of money.
One company that's entered the competition is called Crops. Their idea is to take waste crop residue and place it at the bottom of the ocean, therefore storing the carbon that's already been captured by the crops.
Seems relatively straightforward.
To find out if it is as simple and effective as it sounds, I spoke to David Mitchell, director and founder of Crops. Hi David, thanks for joining me. Are there any negative environmental impacts of putting crops at the bottom of the sea?
So the bottom line is there's a lot of research done before it's done. And because the ocean is so huge, there are a large number of very safe areas to do this where we're not disturbing the minimal biome down there. And in some cases, it may actually create artificial reefs because of the bales going down there, the bales of cornstover, so that it might actually create more habitable areas for the small amount of ocean life that is down.
What about crops that have pesticides on them? Can they be put in the ocean safely?
That's a very good question. So what happens is that if a farmer is growing crops knowing that the crop waste will be sequestered, there'll be certain minimum standards in terms of what is put down and also testing for that. And what's important is that what's in the bales will stay in the bales. And that's very significant because it's high pressure, there's no sunlight, and there's virtually no oxygen. So what we found is that the bales go down and stay virtually unchanged. And in measurements over a 10-year period, we've seen no changes. So this is a very, very safe, it's almost like the perfect refrigerator or the perfect storage. It's in stasis.
How scalable is this method of carbon capture?
Well, let me give you an example. The Corn Belt in the United States produces almost 1 billion tons of crop waste a year. This means in the United States alone, there is close to 1 billion tons of carbon that could theoretically be sequestered. Let's say that only 20% wants to happen. That's 200 million tons a year, not 4,000 or 10,000 tons, 250 million tons a year. Now you look at the global production of corn and maize and soybeans, we are talking upwards of 3 gigatons potentially, and realistically 1.5 gigatons, which means 1.5 billion tons a year could be stored sustainably. And the ocean is so huge that there's plenty of room for it without disturbing any ecosystems in a measurable amount.
Well, David, many thanks for talking to me.
Thank you.
And finally, just before we go, take a look at this.
I can't quite make it out. Is that a dog?
Yeah, that's right. This is Millie, a Jack Russell, who was led to safety off a mudflat on the south coast of England, using a sausage hanging from a drone.
No way.
I know, it's one of those stories where you have to see it to actually believe it, but Millie slipped her collar and was missing for several days. But because the mudflats are too dangerous for people to walk on because of risks of getting stuck or drowning, rescuers came up with the idea to tie a sausage to a drone and lure her to safety. And thankfully it worked.
She sure is one silly sausage.
Oh no, that's gonna be your worst joke yet.
Let's leave it there this week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.